Hi, everybody. Today is Wednesday, September 2nd of 2020, and we are here at Rudy's Psychic Meetup. And of course, that means that we have none other than Rudy Lago from the channel.
Hey, everyone. Welcome. And we got some great topics for tonight. We're going to go over. Sam has just recently got some information on another one of the cast of characters in The Great Awakening. If you've been following her, she kind of has a list. So we'll learn who that is. We're going to talk about traumatic brain injuries. Can they kickstart your psychic abilities? And then if we have time, we'll get to Joan of Arc and talk a little bit more about Joan of Arc's life. That came up in one of the most recent, or one of our recent meetups. So we'll see if you can get a feed on Joan of Arc.
Right on. Well, I was going through your agenda earlier today, and I thought, wow, this is a really great lineup that we have. And then, of course, we had something happen. It actually just happened yesterday. And as you referred to, the cast of characters for The Great Awakening. For those who don't know the story behind this, I get information from the people on the other side about many different things. Some of these things have already come true, so there's some confirmation there. And I always explain to people, as a medium, I go on confirmations. I don't like to talk about things that, for example, I could never prove. But what I like about here on Rudy's Psychic Meetup is that we can talk about some of the fun woo-woo things and the things that happen to me as a medium. And people can accept it or not. That's fine. But it's still interesting and fun. So in early days, when I decided to step forward and start my channel, I was getting information about the Great Awakening. And that comes with all sorts of things. But the bottom line is that the Great Awakening means that society begins to open their eyes to all of the corruptions, the lies, and all of the wrong and evil things that have been going on in the world as our vibrations lift on the planet. Now, of course, certain people, like mediums in particular, people who have psychic abilities, and even the human who has intuition. I mean, all the humans have intuition for the most part, right? So even they notice, everybody can feel it. They know something is going on. So what about the Great Awakening? Well, there have been people over the years and the centuries who have been put in place for a certain reason. Like, I believe that Martin Luther King, for example, was very similar, like Nigel Farage. I refer to them as the change makers. And those are people who are born and sent here, and they serve a specific purpose for humankind to sort of get it right, to get it back on track. So you saw that with the way Martin Luther King handled things. And, it was a fantastic strategy, and it led people in America away from that segregation. And that was the beginning of all people being free in the United States. Because until then, it wasn't really a free country. So that was the really awesome part about Martin Luther King. So that's why I believe that he was sent here by source, because of what he did to change the world so that it would be less evil, that it would be a better place. Now we have the Great Awakening, and this has been planned since the beginning of time. It's very exciting. It is where the world is coming to the brink, where it's either going to be the end, or we're going to have like the best next 1,000 years ever after we get through this. And I am going to vote with the latter. It is going to go well for us.
All right. Well, with that, let's switch on to our next topic, the second topic. And I thank Cat Lady in Arizona for this one, inspiring this. Can injuries, traumatic brain injuries, switch on your natural psychic abilities? So, Sam, there are stories of traumatic brain injuries causing a phenomenon called acquired savant syndrome. And this is where the savant skills emerge, sometimes to a prodigious level, after a brain injury, like a traumatic brain injury or head injury, or even a disease. And if you search YouTube, you'll find some good examples. One that I looked at a couple, and one that I stumbled on was a guy who injured his head after diving into a swimming pool to catch a football. He hit his head in the shallow end, slept for several days, and when he finally began to get up and move about, he could play the piano with like the skills of a concert pianist, and he had never played the piano in his life. But unfortunately, this comes with the side effects can be severe headaches, depression, seizures. So you don't want to go hitting yourself in the head to see if you have these. But Sam, when this type of injury happens, what's actually going on? Does the brain attempt to repair its connections in the same way like the internet would, where a site goes down and it routes around it? What's actually happening when something like this happens?
Yeah, it is trying to find the connections again. If you clip the connection between the left and the right side of the brain,
Yeah.
it will figure out like the side that's left functioning will figure out and take over some of the left brain stuff. So you can have left and right brain stuff going on in the other side. So, I mean, there's so many things about the brain that we don't know, and I do honestly believe that is something that comes from the abilities that we have in our mind. I don't think that that's a spiritual thing. I think that it is a physical thing. And again, just to be in wonderment of, the human condition and how we can recover.
So does this actually, you're thinking it unlocks abilities or that we already have in our mind? It's not that it's not some supernatural thing. It just allows the brain to connect in a way it doesn't normally.
That's right. And there is a way to get these kind of abilities with our brain. It's just that we don't know how to do it naturally. We can't sort of invoke it, but it seems that when it's almost like, if you go blind, your hearing sometimes will become super sensitive. It's just the body makes up for its loss.
And Sam, do you ever see a time when technology might be used to enable these abilities? Like you go in and get wired up to be a guitar hero or something, because you think where the future's going, could they figure something like that out?
Yeah, I don't think they will ever. I don't see that one. I know I'm not usually the no lady on stuff like that, but I just don't see anything in the future. I don't think that we'll have the ability to get like that far into the brain and its functions to be able to, just give someone a headset and now they can fly an airplane, as well as somebody who's been flying it 30 years. I'm sure they could do it, but I don't think that our scientific ability I don't think our technology will advance to that point.
Okay. And Sam, near-death experiences, we always hear these, or not always, but often associated with mediums. So somehow if you almost die, you'll go to the other side and you'll kind of have a chat. It's almost like being called in the principal's office for some people, like it's time to get to work. Now, does the actual accident or near-death experience play a role in awakening somebody's mediumship abilities, or is that really just kind of being called on the carpet and saying it's time to get to work?
Well, I'm going to say that I think the near-death experiences where people come back and then all of a sudden they have mediumistic abilities. Uh-huh. I believe they had it all along. It's just that they were either ignoring it, not developing it, whatever. I happen to be one of the people who was aware of my abilities, but it was only because I knew of and heard rumors of a family member who was a medium, but everyone was all it was like they were excited about it, but they didn't want to talk. Oh, we can't talk about it though. Right. Because we're Catholic, right? Don't talk about it. We're Catholic, right? But it's exciting. Oh yes, it's in the DNA, right? Anyways, but some people don't. But for me, it even occurred to me where they were putting so many things in front of me. And it was when I saw like that girl fall down and I knew that she was going to fall and I stopped walking and I stared at her and then she tripped and fell right on her face. And that's when I thought to myself, okay, this is getting serious. I better do what the people on the other side tell me I need to do to help people using my abilities. Cause that was the thing, right? As I was wasting my abilities, I was just using it to enrich myself and have a successful life, as far as, the choices I was making and stuff. I'm not 100% in my own life. Of course, nobody is. We're still here to learn lessons, but I have to say that I had done very well for myself up to that point. But now it was time to use my gift to help others. And the timing was so important. Like I needed to do it like now. And then I thought to myself, I better do this because they might kill me and then bring me back, and then like bring me over to the other side and get crawled over the carpet, because I had heard about people getting mediumship and coming back. And I used to automatically think that it was just a residual of, dying and then coming back. And it never occurred to me until I saw that girl fall. And they had already, like, you want to talk about celestial beings creating things here in the earth realm to like just put it in my face what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. Right? Like unbelievable. And it was almost like I was dodging, bobbing and weaving. And I was still, because I didn't want to leave my job. Like I didn't. I loved it. I was having a great time. I was making lots of money. I enjoyed it with, meeting the new people and traveling around. And I was like, I just don't. And the change, right? The change was very stressful. But then I realized, I was like, oh my gosh. And then when Debbie told me the story about how she had died, and then they told her, you better get to work, right? They were like, we brought you over because you weren't being a medium, and you're supposed to be a medium. So you go back over and do your job, right? And I even said to her, I was like, yeah, I said, that's why I've decided, because I don't want them to kill me. And then call me out.
The same thing. He had to die and come back and get to work. So, Sam, one of the movies that I remember from the '90s that dealt with this is Phenomenon with John Travolta, like Kira Sedgwick, and basically it's a story of somebody who gets a brain tumor, and all of a sudden he is like an instant genius, and he can even like levitate things. So, do you think that, Sam, there are any abilities in the brain or the mind that we haven't discovered yet, that aren't maybe known to people? Do you think we'll see anything new, or has everything that we can do probably been seen in some shape or form?
No, we have not seen it all. There are some things you can do, like you can start a fire with your chakra.
Okay.
These things that they talk about. I don't agree necessarily with moving things. Like you could probably take your hands and then like really close by, like, move like a pen or something like that, like by not touching it. But as far as, me like levitating, something that's like over there, like, no, that's not possible for me to do that. Now, can it be done? Yes, but I would tell you that if I saw somebody doing it, I would be like, oh, they're using celestial beings, like, or to do that for them. Or if, for example, you're sitting somewhere and, something like just moves, I mean, that's some sort of an entity has moved that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've discussed that before, where you might be able to move things within your auric or energy field if you really work on that ability and skill. So the whole reason for this topic was Cat Lady AZ was watching the movie Harriet on Netflix about Harriet Tubman. And if you're not familiar, from the United States, she was an American abolitionist and political activist who was born into slavery in the 1820s. And she was, severely beaten and escaped, and then actually helped people, and is well known for the Underground Railroad that brought slaves to the North to free them during slavery. But early in life, Sam, she suffered a traumatic head wound. Somebody had thrown something and hit her in the head, and this injured her. And since then, she'd had like pain, dizziness, and claimed to have these visions and vivid dreams from God. That probably was coupled with her religious upbringing. But Sam, can you tell if Harriet Tubman actually had any specific psychic abilities that helped her out, especially with the Underground Railroad, knowing where to go, when to go, and not being caught?
I would not have an opinion about that with Harriet Tubman. I did read through before when you had posted it, but I think that when somebody has the ability to read minds, see the future, that sort of thing, it's something that's never in question.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like Edgar Casey, right? There's all kinds of people who report different things, and where Harriet Tubman was never recognized as anything. Like, she did claim to have dreams, right? Which I'm sure that she did. And that wouldn't necessarily mean that she was a psychic medium, because I do feel that most of us, regardless of our, abilities, that it's very easy for our loved ones and for source to reach to us through our dreams. Because when we're in dream state, that's something that everybody can look forward to, is getting information, when they go to bed at night. It is a possibility. But I wouldn't say that she was a medium or anything like that. And
It helps with the movie storyline, I think. When you hear sometimes things get embellished like that, similar, maybe with Joan of Arc. We'll go into that topic next. Now, we're at the bottom of the hour. Do you want to save Joan of Arc until next week, or or next meeting? We have 18 questions to go.
We should probably get into the questions. I know people are anxious to start getting.
All right, so we'll explore Joan of Arc next time, folks. Let's start off with Coronet Ninja. Hi, guys. In many religions, they speak of an antichrist figure taking over the world, starting off as a savior, gaining people's trust, then raining down terror. Is there such a being?
Yes, there will be such a person that will come forward. I'm keeping my eyes peeled.
Okay.
It's going to be in the political world, and I think it's going to be out of Europe. That's my guess. I am familiar with that, because a lot of people ask me questions about that kind of stuff. And, and one of the things I do enjoy about my gifts and abilities is, I find the Bible is very interesting. Like, there's lots of interesting stuff, stories, historical, futuristic, and I picked that one up, and I was like, yeah, it's going to be a politician in Europe, and people are going to think that he is going to, save them from their terrible existence, but it's really just to enslave them and have more power for himself.
Wonder if it'll be a Name in the Great Awakening movie role too, as the bad guy, right?
Well, everybody who's on my list, the 8, are all here to help.
Okay.
Right? Like, we're all here to help. We all have different roles. One is not more important than the other.
All right. Thanks for that, Sam. Marnie, this is a good question. Hi, guys. Recently, I have been seeing black silhouette human figures, animals, or insects moving in the corner of my eyes, which makes me believe someone or something is there. When I turn to look, it vanishes. Same happens when I see white light in the corner of my eyes, and it disappears when I turn to look. What is going on, and what does this mean? And Cat Lady AZ says she's been having similar experiences, and so has Rudy Lago. I see, I just see movement out of the corner of my eye, but nothing's there, and I'm thinking, what is that?
Oh, well, the dark, shadowy figures are like Dark Man.
Okay.
And the light figures are, light people, the good ones, people who've passed over, or good beings, right?
Okay.
That are light, because it's very clear. But the dark ones, those are shadow people. And so you can see in that with the vibrations going up, the activity level is going to increase significantly. And that was one of the things. I actually had that conversation with my son this week, because he told me, he says, Mom, he goes, the Dark Man has been around like so much more recently.
Oh.
And I said, well, how many times, like in the last 2 days, would you have seen Dark Man? And he said, about three times in the last 2 days, which was a lot. He used to see Dark Man maybe 2 or 3 times in a whole week.
Okay.
But in 2 days to see Dark Man 3 times. And then he told me that he sees Dark Man at the corner of his eye. He says, I see the Dark Man standing there. And then as soon as I turn my head to look, he's there for like a split second, and then he disappears.
Okay.
So, but what you're seeing is probably as soon as you turn your head, they're already gone.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this group, is you share an experience like that, and turns out other people are having the same thing. And I probably wouldn't have even brought this up, but yeah, in mine, Marnie, you're just like, I see almost like a little movement, and I turn and nothing's there. I wouldn't say I see a figure. So interesting to see if other folks have been having this. Post it in the Psychic channel on Discord if you have.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, because we're Dakota and I had that conversation this week where he was complaining to me, or he was advising me, I guess, that it had increased a lot just in the last week. Yeah. And I just said, it's okay. I said the vibrations are increasing on the planet. I think I mentioned to folks before that in all the years that I've been a medium, I have never seen such a battle going on in the ethos. It's pretty amazing. I mean, I know the outcome. I know that of course good is going to win over evil, but holy smokes, This is quite the ruckus. So I'm not surprised that people who haven't even seen shadow people before and stuff, I'm not surprised that you're seeing shadow people, because if you're hanging out with us here, and then light people as well. But like I said, it's just a residual thing. Like there's nothing that you can do about it. There's nothing you're supposed to do. There's no message with it. It's just a residual after effect of, your vibration is rising. And as your vibrations are, rising, you're also going to get into a space that you're going to have be more noticeable, I guess, to the other realms. So, be prepared.
All right. Drill and Phil says, "Hi guys. It seems people are getting very edgy with emotional outbursts in general. Is there something going on in the ethos or on the other side that can cause this kind of behavior? Thank you." And Susan OG also writes, "Mars is in Aries, which is a very high energy, intense emotional time for some people." What do you think, Sam? We've talked about this before, where people are kind of tensions are high.
Oh, well, yeah, the vibrations are increasing. The same reason you're seeing shadow people or light people out of the corner of your eyes and you didn't before. I mean, this is just all out war is going on in the ethos. You think that there's war in some parts of the world, like as in, people fighting against factions. No, this is just a representation of what's going on in the in-between that people can't see, right? And that's why some people are just feeling like they are going insane. And it didn't help that, they've been locked up with COVID-19.
All right, Petty Boy writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. Rhonda and I are going to Aunt Betty's funeral on Friday. Woo woo, will she be there as well?" And I think he also said she's 84 years young. So will Aunt Betty be at her funeral? I'm assuming, Petty Boy, does it sound like she passed away? And wondering if she'll be there in spirit is what I took from this.
Of course. They're always at their funeral. They bring stuff up sometimes if it's important, because I said to somebody, I said, "Did you speak at their funeral?" And they said, "Yes, I did." And I would be like, "Oh, well, they were there," So I'm assuming everybody's there all the time.
They like to hear the good stories to reminisce about them. So I always share the happy stories.
Yeah.
Marty says, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. A giant statue of Buddha in China has had its toes dampened by floodwater for the first time since the 1940s. It is normally high above the waterline, but the area has been hit by the worst flooding in 70 years. There is talk that it's a sign of the end of the CCP. What do you see for China going forward?"
Well, I just see China breaking up into 4 different countries. And so it must be the end of the CCP as we know it. I don't know what else is going to come up, though, if it's all going to be, different countries, different rules, different ideas about how to rule. But I do think that we are moving towards, the Chinese government is going to be in for a change over the next 10 years.
Yeah, China's so large. We were talking about this with some folks a while back, and you almost wonder, will it be divided up amongst like a mega province, because China has multiple provinces, but they're going to have to be somewhat self-sufficient in their economic thing. So it'll be interesting to see how that ends up breaking up. I don't know enough about the details of the politics there now.
Yeah, I would be interested to know how China, like how somebody from China would assume, like if I said to them, "Hey, you were born and raised there, how do you think that the country is going to break up?" If I told you that it was going to break into 4 different parts, and it would be, it would be divided among, it would be like if the United States was going to break up, you can kind of get an idea along cultural lines, how it would divide up.
Susan OG says, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. About a year ago, my 80-year-old mom told me about a dream where her deceased dad, mom, husband, and son, who only lived for a day, all showed themselves to her at one time, but together. The baby appeared as a young man, but she knew who it was, and her parents were much younger than when they passed. Nothing was said. I told her it was a visitation. What do you think the purpose would be? Just a reassurance for her? It was amazing. Thanks."
Oh, yeah, that's why they do that. And also, her mind had reached a state or a point that it was open up enough that they could do that. Because I do believe that even if you're, let's say you're in your 30s and your 40s and you've never had like any kind of amazing visitation or anything like that, but maybe in your 70s or 80s, as you're getting closer to the end of your life, your family and the people on the other side who are like, you're going to be seeing again, they want to let you know that they're there. And then it just becomes a less frightening process for you because, I mean, they all remember, not the baby, but who's now a young man, but they all remember how much they fretted about their death if they had time to think about it. If someone, for example, is told they have terminal cancer, it's kind of the worst thing you can hear about somebody, because I think to myself, I hate how they're going to be so afraid. Like, I can't, that's the one thing I can't stand, is the fear that they have. And it's unfortunate and it's unnecessary because of the bliss that they're going to find themselves in. It's just that they don't know that. They're afraid. It's unknown. I say, okay, you have to try to be understanding. It's like somebody jumping out. It would be like if I was to jump out of an airplane with a parachute on my back for the first time. Of course, leading up to it, I would be very, nervous about it. Right. So, of course, for someone like me who talks to dead people all the time, dying is not as frightening to me as it would be to somebody who kind of has their doubts or, thinks that they're going to get the big stick when they get over to the other side.
But Susan, that my grandfather, that happened to him, I think within a couple of years before he passed, he had seen, my mom would say, call out his brother's name and say, "Is that you?" So that definitely happens. That's not uncommon. So
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Cat Lady AZ writes, this is a follow-up to her Harriet Tubman topic, but have gifted people been sent during pivotal times in history to ensure our growth?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was thinking about when I was reading your Joan of Arc story. And, and I used earlier Martin Luther King. And I do believe that people have been sent to sort of put things back on track. Like, I believe that, Jesus of Nazareth, I don't think he was just a fluke. I think that he was sent here because things were getting a little bit off track there, and they needed to have some new leadership.
And even Hitler, was he one of these key people that was supposed to be a change for good and took the wrong turn too many times, you think? Or is he just notable because he took the wrong turns?
No, he was not somebody sent here to do anything in particular. He was just somebody just like us, born to parents, born as a human, but just a spiritual being like we are, having a human experience. And Hitler was just an example of what can happen when you turn left too many times. Okay. And then you have a mind of and the mind that he had, the circumstances. I understand that he was a drug fiend, and as he got further into the Second World War, he became more and more of a druggie. That was probably to cover over, or to have him not think about the terrible outcome that was coming for the end. I think that at one point he knew this was it, and the bad choices he had made, etc. So so that's my story on Hitler. Nope, he wasn't anyone sent here to do anything in particular. He's just an example of how terrible we can turn into as humans if we turn left too many times, and if the circumstances are just ripe for an individual to brainwash an entire country to follow him.
Okay. Yeah. And then Dale says, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. Not sure if you have previously discussed the idea of out-of-body experiences. Are they a thing? Is it similar to a near-death experience or a dream state? Thank you."
I would say it's similar to a dream state. I wouldn't say it's like near death at all. I have floated out of my body. When I was a kid, especially, I would float out of my body and go head towards the ceiling. but the little cord always kept me. And I didn't really know what was going on. I
Okay.
really didn't. It was a very strange experience for me. And of course, I never looked down. I never turned my head and looked down to see, because I always worried that if I moved, that I would fall or something. Right? I would fall on the floor. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool. And that's, yeah, like astral projection is a thing, but that's more during the sleep state. So out of bodies. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I really try to avoid like all of that out of body stuff. And even when people talk about channeling, I'm like, you know what? I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. I just know, what's right for me and what's not right. And I'm not going to say that I've never allowed somebody to channel through me. I have I was only in my late 30s, and I was just sort of investigating my abilities. And this woman had been following me around. She had been murdered, and she was telling me her story and stuff. So I actually let her climb inside, and I proceeded to tell somebody that I knew who was in the, because like I said, we were just trying. This person had an open mind, and I said, hey, what if I, let her just talk through me, and then I can get more information. And I did, and the crime was solved, actually. And she came back 4 days before her husband was arrested, because she told me he was the one who did it.
Okay.
Right. And then 4 days before he was arrested, she came to me, and I was about to get in the car, and she said, it's almost over with. And then I always asked her, I was like, is there anything that you want me to do? Like, do I need to do anything? And they never ask me to do anything. Those people, they just want to tell you their story.
Yeah. And, Sam, it's interesting about the people that they've crossed over, but they haven't gone to the other side yet. They're not enlightened or in that spirit, that good place. And as we've heard those stories from Bart and Tom, and, some of them can still have bad intentions if they're in the in-between. And that's where you could run into danger with change.
Yeah. Now, she had passed over and come back. So she was speaking to me. She was a light being when she was speaking to me. I could tell that. But you're right. I mean, somebody who doesn't know, like even I as a medium, I'm just feeling like, okay, I'm getting the impression that I shouldn't be doing that. Right.
Mhm.
But like I said, if someone else does it or whatever, I'm not going to judge them. They're having their own walk, communicating with the other side and stuff. So I can only tell you guys like what I know. And that's one of the things that that I won't do. Like if someone said to me, could you channel? I'd be like, no, absolutely not. I can't do that, because I would also worry about something taking the opportunity to climb inside of me that had not been invited. But if you're doing it, then you're almost like opening up you're not almost, you're opening up to anything that happens to be in the vicinity.
Eugene, aka Ziggy, writes, hello, Sam and Rudy. Sorry if this has been asked previously. Did the king of Nebuchadnezzar have access and abilities to open the fiery furnace in the ancient city of Babylon? As the story goes, Nebuchadnezzar captured the wise men from the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. The three wise men entered the fiery furnace and returned unscathed, accompanied by another being from another world. Did the fiery furnace exist, and was it a portal of some form or Stargate? Was it ever rediscovered? Do you get anything about that Bible story?
I don't think it really happened.
Okay.
I think somebody made that up. See, there are some things that are just like made up. I mean, the three wise men, they ended up not getting killed, but it was probably for another reason. And, maybe somebody paid for them to get out, but somebody had to make up a story that was quite fantastical. But they were very superstitious back then, and they believed in angels and that stuff like that could happen.
Okay. Cool. Thanks for that. Daniel L. writes, hi, Sam. I have a cute pig stuffed toy for quite a few years. Recently, my wife started to have different types of ghostly weird dreams when it's near her when she's asleep. I also had a few weird dreams, but lesser. Have we transferred too much energy into the toy so it attracts spirits?
I don't think so. I think that that's just a coincidence, and that things are happening because of the Great Awakening and the vibrations increasing. So a lot of people are getting a lot of different things. And dreams are, like I said, the number one way, because you may only have a small percentage of the population who are actual mediums.
Okay.
Like we have over 500 people who we all hang out together here. How many are mediums? Like 20?
Yeah.
It's not a large percentage of the 500, but in the regular population, it would be like even less.
Yeah.
But as far as humankind goes, 100% can
And
get those dreams.
And I would say to Daniel, we've had examples before where we know things can attach themselves to objects. We've talked about that in the past, but I think what sounds like to me with what's happening is really you guys are just having increased vibrations that's really kind of driving some of that activity. So, okay. Rustler Stu writes, "What is the future of the Catholic Church's credibility?"
Oh, the Catholic Church is going to be all but shut down. There's going to be some, you know what? The part of the Great Awakening and the peaceful years that are coming after this big ruckus and upheaval, because things are going to be revealed. Things that were hidden in darkness for hundreds of years are going to be light is going to be shone on it.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some things that's going to be quite shocking for mankind. To learn about like the role of alien nations that came here before us. People are going to be like, what? Say what? Because you would never believe it or know it because, it's never talked about. But yeah, things are definitely, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, I know, especially in some parts where the church is such a huge influence in people's lives. I wonder if they'll become more like the churches kind of become more Christian, faith-based organizations as opposed to, quote unquote Catholic, because it's still a very important part of people's lives, as well as they have communities built around it. So it's not like it would go away, right?
Right. And that's the thing is that, people who are giving money towards the Catholic Church, I mean, that's no longer going to be into play, but, they will form their own sort of spiritual groups based on these teachings. And the thing is that a lot of people who left the Catholic Church because they didn't want to support a religion that was covering for pedophiles the last few hundred years.
Okay.
But they will start going back to church again with their family and stuff if it's like a spiritual type of church and more about that I have often said before I have no problem with people going to some sort of religious gatherings because it's more of a community thing with humans and having similar beliefs and sharing with one another and having sort of that ability to go outside of your family and meet other families and sort of create a larger community because we don't have the little villages that we used to have, hundreds of years ago. A lot of people lived on farms. There were villages. But now, we have these big cities and everything. So this will be a big movement in a big way. Giovanni had asked, when did the peaceful years start? And Giovanni, I think we only have about 4 years of really hard going. And it's just because of all the damage that we've done to our society all over the world.
And I like how you've already answered Silver Spirit's question. That often happens in these meetings. Sue G writes, "Hi guys, my son's girlfriend told me she was walking to work and randomly fell down. She then floated up above and saw her body on the ground. She said she felt very peaceful and happy and could sense the entire universe. She had the thought she could go to work like this, but then she thought no one would be able to see her. So she made the decision to go back into her body and said it was so heavy. Was this an astral travel? She had no physical ailments before or after. What are your thoughts?" Sounds like those out-of-body experiences we were just talking about.
Yeah, and she fell. So isn't that, how old is she when that happened? Did she say?
I think she said it was just recently. She was walking to work, so yeah.
Just walking to work and just fell, and then literally her spirit fell out too. I mean, I'm telling you right now, crazy stuff like that can happen. Just like we were talking about earlier, how when I was a little kid, I would float out of my body, and I'd worry about, I remember it only because I used to worry about my nose rubbing up against the little, because it was back when the ceilings, they used to spackle them where they were sharp.
Uh-huh.
That was kind of the look. It wasn't a nice smooth. It was, you know what I mean? Like this is back from a place built in the 1970s. And they would just press on it and make it sort of so it would have like all these sharp edges, right? And
Yeah.
so I'd be floating up and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to hit the ceiling. I'm gonna scratch my nose. I always remember that when I was little. It was like so crazy. Not hey, I'm floating out of my body. It's you know, I'm looking up and the ceiling is like 2 inches from my face. And
Yeah.
so I mean, if that happened to me, why can't somebody trip and fall and have their spirit float up out of their body and then go back inside? I mean, maybe she did have maybe her heart stopped for a minute when she fell,
And
and then it started.
happened again. Those are the kinds of experiences like we talk about in the group here on Discord. You'll put it to the back of your head and you'll completely forget about it. And then until somebody talks about a story like that, you'll be like, oh, wait, that happened to me. And you can realize there might be something a little bit more to it. So,
Yeah, exactly.
all right. Lynn writes, hi, guys. This week I slipped and fell. Prior to falling, I was enraged. I know this is negative things come after me. Was the falling part of an attack or coincidence? I didn't think they could harm us. Thanks.
They can get you to harm yourself.
Okay.
One time when I was down in the kitchen and I was making something and I should have like responded to the attack right away. And for those people who don't know, if you're a medium, before you go into a reading, you're basically right, in the spiritual realm, you're running to the other side to get the messages and the information. So you have those things in between giving you a hard time. And what I mean by giving you a hard time is that they try to go into your mind and get you to think about things that you would have never thought about, like stuff from like a long time ago when I was really small or in school, things that I never held in my heart against anybody. I'm one of those people that live and let live. I don't foster I'm not like looking for apologies from people or you know what I mean? It's like I just move on. I forget about stuff. So that was the first clue to me that this was not actually from my mind. And it came along and started to happen the more I practiced my gift. So I figured out that, okay, obviously my flame is getting brighter. These things are noticing me and they're trying to get me in a bad mood. And so I was annoyed because I was thinking about something. And then I ended up slamming the cupboard, but my thumb was in the way and I hurt myself. And I was like, you buggers, you got me. Oh, I so did that to myself too, right? I should have, and that taught me like, do not let them get even like 2 minutes into their story in your mind, right? Because you have to block it. You have to think, love and light. I think about elephants, pink elephants, rainbows. And and if it's really bad, I'll say a few times, rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Right.
Rubber baby buggy bumpers. And then it makes me laugh because, of course, I screw up saying it. That's the other one that I use as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's because you always have thoughts pop into your head. And I find myself doing that too is, I don't dwell on stuff. If a bad thought, a bad memory comes back, I don't dwell on it, don't focus on the emotions. And, life's just so much easier when you don't hold that anger or, resentment, those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a very positive person and I like to go with the spring in my step, but I also recognize that I'm a walking target. And when you are using your gifts and abilities to help people and release anxiety, and all this anxiety being created in the world is feeding these negative entities, which are in a battle, so they need nourishment. So they don't much care for me and people like me who are making a difference. And you know what? And you don't have to be a medium to make a difference. Give somebody a smile, save them. Don't drink the last of the coffee, save them a cup, right? That sort of thing. There's all these little things that you can do. I let people, as long as I'm not, taking a chance to get rear-ended or putting someone else out, I give people a break and wave them through traffic to give them a chance so that they don't have to sit there and wait forever. If you help like even 4 people on the way in your car during rush hour, I mean, that's 4 people who, are probably going to be more positive that day because some stranger, gave them an easy in or saw them coming and got out of the way, that sort of thing. It's just the little things that we can do, just even living our everyday lives as fellow humans.
Yeah,
And
I've been at the grocery store where someone's done with their cart and you're walking in like, "Hey, can I take your cart?" Just those little things like, "Oh, thanks." Those little surprises. People enjoy those.
yeah.
All right, Lucy Brown says, "Good evening. When animals pass, do they ever come back again? They have such an emotional bond with us humans. It seems so unfair that their lives are cut short. My sweet dog Nemo passed a year ago, and when he passed, I whispered to him, 'Come back to me.' Will he ever return to me? Thanks, Lucy."
Oh, well, you'll see him when you cross over to the other side. But it is possible to adopt, or to have another puppy and then have one from a previous life come to you, but it's not very common and not likely. Um, because every animal is special in their own way. You'll have your own bond with them. I've had to put down a few dogs. And because I mean I'm older, so obviously a few dogs have run their course, and I have my dogs are 7 and 10 months old right now, and neither of those dogs have spirits that I've ever been in contact with before, as far as I know. But I do believe it can happen, just like it can happen with people. There are documented stories of you know um, somebody's father dying, and then they have a son and their father comes back as their son. Like, this is very unusual, but it does happen.
Right. Yeah, I've heard those. Okay. Rick Ray says, "Was Abraham's Lincoln role in the destiny of the United, or what was Abraham Lincoln's role in the destiny of the United States? Was he here to ensure the U.S. followed its intended course by not breaking up?"
I think that Lincoln was the same as everybody else. Let the chips fall where it may. I don't think that he was somebody who held a pivotal role in the same way as, for example, Martin Luther King did. Right?
Was it some people are here for those nexus points? I think that's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cat Lady AZ writes, "In the book of Revelations, the description of New Jerusalem has always sounded like a spaceship to me. What are your thoughts on this?" I'm not sure I'm familiar with that part of the Revelation story.
Oh yeah. They talk about the New Jerusalem, but again, a lot of that is just symbolic, and it talks about the lion laying down with the lamb, and that is that's just symbolism. I mean, there's never going to be a time where the lion is going to lay down with the lamb, like in the real world. But that was just, again, the same way that um, the description of Jerusalem is in human terms, so
Okay.
that you can have a concept of what things are going to be like after evil is put asunder and corruption's uncovered.
All right. Final question. MJ says, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. You mentioned the alien information that will be coming out as the days go on, and it got me wondering, what are your thoughts on Zacharias Sitchin, the man who wrote about the ancient Sumerians and the Anunnaki and their history where humans came from? DNA mixing by the Anunnakis to make workers to mine the gold, something along those lines. Was he right? Sorry if this has been asked before, but I remember reading 4 or 5 books of his and was totally intrigued at the time. Thanks."
Yes, that's pretty much the way it went down. I knew nothing about this until I heard the story, and then the people on the other side were like, "Yep, that's it." I'm like, "Really? That's how it went down?" Okay. I'd never ever heard that before. There was no reason for me to even believe it, but so shall it be? I was like, "Well, that's where we came from." But it was, they were messing with people. They were doing stuff they shouldn't have been doing, but we ended up becoming the hosts for, or the human body began being the host for the spirit, from source. I mean, so it worked out okay.
It's interesting when one of these things on History Channel gets it right. Zacharias Sitchin. That's a good one. All right, Sam. Well, great show tonight. Thank you very much. And sounds like by the sound of your voice, you are done. So in 2 weeks, we'll meet again, and we will pick up with Joan of Arc and learn more about her.
All right. Well, thanks so much again for the fantastic topics, Rudy, and thanks everybody for attending tonight and for providing those wonderful questions. I look forward every 2 weeks to the Rudy Psychic Meetup, and if you're on the podcast listening, if you'd like to see the unedited version and get access to the live streams, then just come on over to my Patreon channel under Samantha Jane James. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye for now.